Welcome back to Team O'Neill. I'm Wyatt. Today we're going to look at a really basic skill, just how to drive around cones. It might sound easy, but it's not. And if you're going to do any driver training, get into some grassroots racing of any kind, you're going to see a lot of cones. Chances are you're going to run a lot of them over. So if you can find a safe area and do a little training on your own, that's great. You can get yourself up to a very high standard before you're actually in competition. But if it is your first time seeing cones out on an autocross course or a rallycross course, let's take a look at a few ways that you can set yourself up for success. All right, so the first thing you need to know about driving around in a cone course like this, if you show up at an autocross or a rallycross or something like that, you've got to understand the course. It might look like a sea of cones out in a parking lot or something like that. You'll always have the chance to either walk the course beforehand. Sometimes they do like a parade lap and you can drive slowly through it once or twice. Maybe there's a drawing of it or something like that. But whatever you're up to, even if you're just training on your own, understand, where the tight spots are, where the easy spots are, if there's any dangerous spots where it's close to a bank or something like that or a wall. It's tough to visualize a course that's just made out of parking cones essentially in an open area. So just do your best. If you can memorize the course or at least the tough parts, great. What we've got out here is a very typical cone course that you're going to see. There's one cone standing up and one laying down next to it. The one laying down next to it is just pushing you which direction to go around the cone. You might see different ways of doing this. You might see just a kind of a gate with one cone on either side and you've got to go in between. If you were training on your own, you could just do a line of cones. You might not need that pointer cone so that you could go on either side of it. If you have a few cones in just a small area, that's a good cheater kind of trick to get more drivable terrain out of it. But either way, just roughly know the course. And then the toughest part about driving around cones is looking where you want to go. If you stare at the cones, you're going to hit all the cones. So it's just a visual game as you're driving around here of looking beyond the cones, keeping the cones in your peripheral. You definitely need to be scanning that road surface up ahead to show you where the grip is and where it's not. And the sooner you can get pretty adept at looking past the cones, just keeping them in your peripheral, letting the cones go by, looking at the road up ahead and visualizing it more as a road, the better off you're going to be. You're going to find that when you're driving within your limits, that's easy enough. You can get through a course like this pretty quickly, not looking at the cones, everything's fine, you're on a good line. But if you do push it a little hard, you come flying in here sideways the wrong way, it's easy to look at the cone. And sure, in an autocross or a rallycross, that's just going to cost you some time when you hit it. But for the sake of your own training, those cones are trees. They're phone poles, they're boulders, they're rocks, they're whatever they're going to be. And mentally try to take it a little bit serious. You're always going to have those kind of bonsai runs where you go ripping through here at 100%, and sure, you're going to nick a cone or two, but you need to know your own kind of 80%, 90%, 95% where you can get through here as quick as possible without bumping into anything. One other trick that's going to help you a lot, we see it all the time up here at the driving school. Give the cones a little more room on the right side than on the left side. And that's simply because here in America, we're driving on the left side of the vehicle. So you've got a decent frame of reference where your body is and this left front tire and the center line of the car. You'll see most people, as you start driving around in cones like this, they're always hitting them with the right front because that right front tire is just a little further away than you realize, especially as you drive different cars and the cone's kind of short. You get on a line and you think you're going to be good. You end up smacking the cones with the right side 75% of the time. So just know that going into it and give yourself a little bit of room in those right-hand corners. It's just a short little cone, so just stay a couple feet off of it. It's not a game of being an inch off of every single cone or trying to make the cones teeter as you go by, If you train yourself to drive like that, when you get out on a real road, you're going to try to be an inch or two off of every phone pole and tree and mailbox and stone wall that you see. That's going to be super dangerous. Shoot for being, a foot off of each cone. That's fine. As you're driving in cone courses like this, especially as they're pretty tight, for the most part, late apex everything. And all that means is as you're approaching a cone, stay nice and wide, you know, a car width or so wide, and then turn in early so that you're wide for the next one, and then turn in early so that you're wide for the next one. And, you know, obviously we're out here roosting around in the snow and having a good time. You're not going to drive an autocross course like this, but the same line holds true. Start wide of the corner and then turn in nice and early and have most of your actual cornering accomplished before you go by the cone. So let's take a look at that again, nice and wide. So set up wide for the next one. What do I do here? All you do is set up wide for the next one. Main goal here is set up wide for the next one. So it's not about the corner you're in, it's about just getting a good line for the one after that. So really, that's all there is to it, without getting too much into setting up different cone courses and different exercises you can do for yourself. Just keep in mind those basics. Understand the course, look where you want to go, late apex everything, give right-hand corners a little more space than you want, or maybe, you know, if you're, hey, in the UK, give left a little more room. And then just have a good time, finding your own limits, finding the limits of the vehicle. Realistically, it's one of the best investments that you can make for your driving. If you have a dozen cones and a halfway safe place to just get out and practice, and whether it's on pavement or you're learning to drift or you're trying to rally or whatever you might be doing, this is really the only way that you find your limits. You can't do this on a, you know, narrow tree line road or you know, even on a racetrack. Out here in the cones, you know, if you make a big blooper and it all kind of goes wrong, you spin out or you hit a cone. You can train yourself to a very high standard so that when you do get out into a more serious situation where the consequences are real, you'll have that skill set to get out of it. You can set yourself up all different kinds of corners, easy corners, tight corners, fast corners, slow corners. And it's all just about getting that repetition, building that muscle memory, and getting really comfortable to where you can slide the car around pretty aggressively without ever feeling like you're in a panic situation, you know? Now, if you don't have parking cones, go online. You know, you don't have to buy these 18-inch heavy-duty rubber ones like we've got. You can get little ones that collapse easy if you're worried about your bumper covers or things like that. And I don't care if you use soda cans or whatever you want. If you're not out there just pushing the limits in a safe place and getting to know your vehicle inside out and your own habits and what's going on with the world around you, you're really gonna be on your back foot when you get into any kind of racing. Because guess what? The competition is. You know, there's guys out there that have hundreds of hours of seat time and repetition just going hot around cones. And you know what? Once you get that seat time and you've got all of that practice and training down, when you get out on a track or any other course that you might be racing on or driving on, it's just that much easier. All right, so that's basically all you need to know about driving around cones, whether you're using it for training or competition or, you know, vehicle setup. Maybe you're just trying different tires, different tire pressures, suspension settings, alignments, whatever it might be. Every time you go out and drive, you want to have a goal. So you're setting up, you know, a specific exercise to focus on a specific skill set, or you're just trying to get some seat time, practice, consistency. Anytime you're done driving, like we are right now, just do a little mental debrief. Hey, were there any issues with the car? You know, this thing I noticed a couple times, if you let the clutch out a little quickly, there's a little bit of a clunk in the rear. That could be a differential bushing, suspension part or something like that. But you need to take note of that, get it on the lift, get it on the jack stands. I'm lucky enough here that I can just tell the guys down in the shop. And then as far as kind of myself and how I felt about, you know, the driving that I did here today, a big rookie mistake right from the get-go was not focusing on your breathing. You know, if you're out there doing lap after lap, whether it's on the track or an autocross or whatever, a lot of repetition, you'll find a really common mistake is to kind of hold your breath and focus on what you're doing a little bit too much. Consciously, if you need to, and I personally do, focus on your breathing a little bit more. Make sure your brain's getting that oxygen that it needs. Otherwise, you'll go out for a few minutes and come back a little weird. And if you're doing any track days or endurance racing or anything like that, really focus on your breathing, make sure you're eating your food and doing what you need to do so that you can keep a high level of performance out there over a long period of time. So thank you as always for watching. Please, if you're interested in doing any driving yourself, check out teamoneil.com. You can come out and play with any of these cars up at our facility in New Hampshire. If you like these kinds of videos, take a look at our channel and consider subscribing. Be safe. Now, have fun, be safe, and we'll see you next time.